looks like the Biden administration has not been able to flip a switch and make vaccine distribution suddenly much better. I don't really know if vaccine distribution is doing that well anywhere on the globe right now, but even if it was, I know the United States would not be towards the front of the pack. But I would think that Hollywood would maybe want to get involved here to push, to maybe do remember Disney? Walt Disney was very much involved in creating, content for the U.S. government and other places, even for companies. There's a really funny Kleenex video that they made in the 1950s about germs, actually, interestingly enough. And you would think that, I know it's unfortunately been politicized, but you would think that Hollywood would get involved here in trying to get more people to take this vaccine. Because one of the things that I think it would help are movie theaters. Because right now, movie theaters are just dead. They're dead. So hello and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where as things get worse and worse at the box office, Hollywood is giving up on the pipe dream of forcing theaters to reopen, trying to strong-arm, like restaurants. Restaurants, I think, have successfully strong-armed local governments to allow them to reopen, even though medical professionals are saying that that's a horrible idea right now. But theaters just can't move the needle. And also getting people to go to the ones that even are open. And maybe that's the issue. People are still willing to go to a restaurant right now, or at least a number of people are, but it looks like very few people are willing to go to a movie theater, even if it was open. I'm curious, what would get you to go back to a movie theater? Imagine it's Black Widow. If things haven't changed, would you go to Black Widow right now? I'm curious. All right, so Hollywood's like, it's not going to happen. So instead, they're starting to really use this time to pump up their streaming services, which is a good idea. That's what I said, and many of you agree they should have been doing all along. And streaming services have become a war itself, with a marketplace that has suddenly become very crowded and competitive, with really exciting ideas happening as studios have to think outside the box to survive during this pandemic. And not just the studios are taking advantage of a quarantine captive audience, but Nielsen is aggressively and quickly rebuilding their brand. And this week, as some of you excitedly pointed out to me, and it is exciting, they have begun dividing their weekly top 10 report into 3 categories: original, acquired, and movies, which allows for a much better and more nuanced look at how streaming content is actually doing. I love this. It's a little bit like our replacement top 10 for now. Although, after one glorious week, HBO Max is once again not factored into Nielsen's ratings, which means it's more likely that HBO Max saw the Christmas week report and were like, our numbers are way better than Soul's. We should be number one. We are number one. So they called up Nielsen and said, could you please, and they got that big splashy headline out of it. But at the time, I wondered why Nielsen never changed the report on their own website. And it must be because they knew that going forward, they still wouldn't be, factoring HBO Max into their ratings. But I also want to say on the Wonder Woman 1984 front, as many of you pointed out, and I alluded to this in my movie math last week, but a number of you did the math, speaking of math, and it turns out that, yes, since Wonder Woman 1984 is almost an hour longer than Soul, more people actually watch Soul. It's just that Wonder Woman 1984 had more minutes, and minutes is the way that Nielsen is calculating these ratings. But still, even so, both films clearly dominated the week of Christmas. However, who knows how Wonder Woman 1984 did in its second week? Because again, Nielsen still isn't officially covering HBO Max. And I don't know if HBO Max can call up Nielsen and pull this trick again. Either let Nielsen, include you in their ratings or stay out of it, would be my opinion. So as you can see, Soul was easily the number 1 movie the week of New Year's, more than doubling the number 2 film's watch time. And these 2 films, by the way, have about the same running length. Disney Plus had 4 of the top 10 movies, split between recent classics. You can see why Moana is getting her own spin-off animated series and will surely get Frozen 3. I heard Frozen 3 was in the works even as Frozen 2 was being released. But as you can see, that's clearly a good idea. And new films, look at this, Mulan is proving to be quite popular now that it's available at no extra cost. What about all the moral problems with it? I think, clearly based on this list, Disney Plus thrives when it's used as a babysitting service, and parents allow their children to have unsupervised access to it all day long, and I suspect a lot of the times it just is on in the background for these children. So No one's talking about Mulan because it's mostly children probably clicking on it and having it on in the background. Have you watched Mulan now that it's available at no extra cost? What'd you think of it? And on that note, I think that Raya, the next premiere access film on the service, will probably perform almost identically. I think that it'll have a very slow start out of the gate with the pay window. I think they should have knocked the price down to $20. I think $30, which has been confirmed, is just way too much right now, especially because you don't own it. You're just unlocking it. Universal does a $20 rental for 48 hours. Maybe Disney feels because you have it, I think Disney Plus should just make it 48 hours, quite frankly. You only unlock it for 48 hours on the streaming service. But this $30 early access permanently, I just don't think it works. And I have to say, I did feel upset that I paid, I saw a screener, but my family wanted, I have control of our Disney Plus account for all of our households. So I paid for Mulan for early access, and I was very upset that I didn't get any of the extras. But yet, about a month later, a couple of months later, it became available on iTunes for cheaper, or like $25, I think, but that included extras. And so I was pretty annoyed about that, to be honest with you. But I'm not sure. We'll see. My family right now says they don't want me to purchase Raya for them to watch on Disney Plus. But I think when March 5th rolls around, they might be like, let's do it. I mean, that's the thing. It might be, do you want to see the new content or not? But anyway, I think there will be a slow start with lots of complaining, just like with Mulan. But then it'll explode on the service a couple of months later when it's available at no extra cost. But no one will talk about it, which is really unfortunate because, as you can see from the trailers alone, Disney Animation worked really hard on that and seems to have done a really phenomenal job. But to be fair, it's not like anyone's talking about The Midnight Sky either, and that's doing very well for Netflix, according to Nielsen. But this is also weird, because on Netflix's own service, The Midnight Sky never had a really big presence on their own top 10 list. So why doesn't their top 10 list correlate? They have the advantage that there's like a month apart between these two things, so, we'll have to start remembering how movies and shows did on the Netflix top 10. But I don't know, we still don't have a definitive, indisputable ranking system for streaming. I still think there are problems here. Also, still a lot of older films in the list for top 10 movies on streaming. And it'll be interesting to see if HBO Max can break this up with their new releases. If they can get themselves permanently monitored by Nielsen. And if not, why not? Are the numbers not good enough to share? They got to get on this. They got to get in the Nielsen ratings. Because I also would like to know how Friends, The Big Bang Theory, and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air are doing as HBO Max's big ticket acquired series. They paid a lot of money for that. And I'd like to know how it's doing compared to Netflix, which, as you can see, has the entire top 10 of acquired shows. Right now, The Office still ruled during its last week on Netflix. And while I'd love to know how it's going to do on Peacock, or how it's doing on Peacock, where it now lives, Nielsen doesn't cover Peacock either. So Peacock should get in on this as well, unless it's, again, embarrassing. Finally, for original series, Netflix dominates here as well, with Bridgerton in its second week and Cobra Kai in its debut week taking the top 2 spots. And look at that, Sabrina in its final season. Apparently everybody hate-watched it. That's a really strong showing for something that Netflix decided to cancel. That debuted New Year's week as well. And I'm particularly impressed to see The Crown and The Queen's Gambit still going strong a month and 2 months out, respectively, from their releases. While Death to 2020 and The Great British Baking Show also show impressive strength. The Mandalorian, right after its second season wrapped, also is performing very well this week, but you would think it would do better than The Crown. My guess is that people are using the New Year's week to catch up on shows they'd missed, which is why The Crown and The Queen's Gambit were doing very well. But The Mandalorian is the type of show that most people watch as it debuts, so that might be why it wasn't higher up there. I'm very curious to see how WandaVision will compete here, and we'll know in 2 weeks, because again, the Nielsen ratings are running significantly behind. As for box office, as I said, it's just awful. And the 1-2 punch of the Super Bowl and the little things being available on HBO Max domestically, well, HBO Max really is only available domestically right now, but that caused the film to fall 55% in its second weekend. While The Croods 2 still has amazing staying power. So that's a good sign for Raya. Although, because right now you can stream The Croods but that's just still $20 for a $20 rental. But Universal, I still feel Universal has a very strong model here, although they don't release their streaming numbers anymore. So I don't know if anybody's making any money. It's all about subscribers. Subscribers is the new box office because that's where money comes in. And of course, so that's why we're going to continue to pay the most attention and put the most importance on these streaming services' number of subscribers. And Disney has an update on Thursday when they have their next quarterly report, and I will be covering. Very exciting. Now, speaking of family films, Soul is doing pretty well overseas. Well, it's doing extremely well for a pandemic movie. It's hit $100 million thanks to very strong box office out of China, where it's the second most successful Pixar film ever, way behind Coco. China loved Coco. But, I also think, to be fair to Chinese audiences, it seems that they are open to diverse characters with the right material. But still, no movie is making the amount of money it should be making under normal circumstances. This is just but a mere shadow of what these movies are supposed to be doing. So that's why Hollywood is just committing to streaming right now, because these are some piddly box office numbers. Now, speaking of streaming on iTunes, once again, price drove the market, which is why that Disney Premier Access price is too damn high. But several movies became available to rent and shot up into the top 10. Look at that. Let Him Go, that Kevin Costner movie from Universal, finally became available to rent. #1. That's very, very impressive. Then over on Netflix, Firefly Lane was able to hold off fellow newcomer Malcolm and Marie for the top spot. I wouldn't have seen that coming, speaking of WandaVision. This has been a tough week for Malcolm and Marie. At least it did very well on Twitter, particularly Zendaya did. But Malcolm and Marie was snubbed by the Golden Globes and the SAG Awards with 0 nominations. And then it couldn't even get the #1 spot on Netflix. I mean, it's going up against a series, but I think Malcolm and Marie should have been #1 on the service, to be honest with you. Did you watch it? What did you think? It has gotten slammed. Bridgerton is still going very strong, while new episodes of The Sinner did very well. Yay, Matt Bomer! Well, South Korean film Space Sweepers is the latest foreign content to find a big audience in the U.S., thanks to Netflix. I'm so proud of us. For a long time, the United States, unlike the rest of the world, was not into other countries' entertainment, which was really uncool. But now, Netflix subscribers, at least, are so open to overseas content. I just think it's wonderful. Why are you okay with that? Is it the dubbing? I have a big problem with dubbing. I like to see the original actors' performances. But is that what's doing it? Is that you can watch this stuff dubbed? I'm very curious as to why people in the United States are suddenly willing to watch foreign content, when that has never been the case for the entire time that we've been, having entertainment. This is very new and very exciting. Plus, Netflix has promised us a new movie each week this year for the entire year. And for Valentine's Day weekend, we're getting the 3rd and final installment of To All the Boys, to All the Boys franchise on Friday. By the way, Noah Centineo, Netflix is really getting into business with him, as he's supposed to star in their Reddit Wall Street movie that they're fast tracking. Although everyone's fast tracking a Wall Street Reddit movie, so we'll see who actually gets there first. I'm excited. They're also the people who do Billions are making one, and I like that team a lot. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. And also, I don't think the story's over just yet, although the stock did fall quite a bit. All right, so what have you been watching? What are you planning to watch for Valentine's Day weekend coming up? The SnyderCut trailer on Valentine's Day, obviously, is one of those things. By the way, Movie Math next week will be on Monday, because on Valentine's Day, I will be reacting to and breaking down that trailer. And then also, what do you think of Nielsen's new top 10 charts? I can't wait to see how the SnyderCut's 4 hours. It's gonna dominate if HBO Max will just get it on the damn rankings. It's 4 hours, and then this thing is measured by minutes. It's going to be incredible. All right, so I did hear, by the way, that Warner Brothers is very happy with the way the SnyderCut is performing. The way it's, all the attention it's getting, and it's getting good numbers for them. So that's good. We want Warner Brothers and HBO Max to feel very positive towards that. So I was very happy to hear that. All right, share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.